Ladies and gentlemen, divine substance is unlimited supply, and it is the invisible foundation upon which all visible wealth rests. Every coin, every dollar, every stream of income that appears in your life is nothing more than the outer shell of this boundless inner reality. Divine substance is infinite, inexhaustible, and ever-present. It cannot be diminished, it cannot be lost, and it cannot be withheld, because it is God's very own nature of abundance. To know this truth is to step into a river of supply that never runs dry. It is to awaken from the dream of limitation and discover that you live in a universe overflowing with riches that are yours by divine right. When you recognize divine substance as your supply, you no longer look to a paycheck, a customer, or even a business as your source. You look higher, to the infinite spirit that manifests through countless channels. This frees you from anxiety, because no single person or condition can block your good. If one door closes, another opens wider. If one stream dries up, a greater one bursts forth. The outer form may shift, but the essence of supply remains eternal and unfailing. This realization is the beginning of financial freedom, for it places your trust in the only source that never fails. The human mind, trapped in appearances, often clings to the idea that supply is limited. It believes there is only so much money to go around, only so many opportunities, only so many chances to prosper. But divine mind knows no such limits. Think of the sun pouring out light without restraint, never concerned that it will run out of rays. Think of the ocean waves rolling endlessly to the shore, never fearful of running dry. In the same way, divine substance flows endlessly, always ready to manifest as the dollars, the millions, the opportunities that you require. When you command your first dollar, you are not asking for something scarce, nor are you begging for charity from the universe. You are calling forth from infinite substance that which is already yours in truth. That first dollar may arrive in unexpected ways: a gift, a sudden refund, an overlooked payment, a stranger's kindness. But however it comes, it is a signal that divine substance has taken form for you, and it is a promise of greater manifestations to come. That first dollar is the seed that proves the soil is fertile. From that seed, millions can grow. To call upon divine substance, you must use the spoken word, for the word is power. Every affirmation, every prayer, every declaration shapes substance into visible form. When you speak with authority, you impress divine mind with the pattern of your desire. You say, "Infinite Spirit, I command my first dollar, my first million to appear now, under grace and in perfect ways." And the law responds, reshaping circumstances, aligning opportunities, and moving unseen forces until what you have spoken appears before your eyes. The key is to speak without fear, without doubt, and without contradiction. If you affirm abundance but secretly harbor thoughts of lack, you are scattering the energy. Instead, hold firm to the truth: divine substance is unlimited, and it is flowing to you now. Even when appearances seem barren, even when the bank account looks empty, declare the truth with confidence. Say, "There is no lack in divine mind. My supply is here and now." Just as a farmer sows seeds in faith that the harvest will come, so must you plant words of abundance with faith that they will bear fruit. Every day presents a new opportunity to prove this law. Each morning, as you rise, remind yourself that the world is filled with divine substance, and that it is rushing to meet you. As you handle your wallet or your purse, affirm, "Divine substance fills this now. Money flows to me in perfect ways, by perfect law." When you pay a bill, bless it and declare, "This is divine substance in circulation, and it returns to me multiplied." Each act of faith strengthens the invisible cords that connect you to unlimited supply. Gratitude is another magnet for divine substance. When you give thanks for what you already have, no matter how small, you create a vibration that calls forth more. If you have one coin, bless it and thank it for being the forerunner of countless more. If you receive your first dollar, rejoice over it as though it were your first million. By doing so, you expand the flow. Gratitude is a declaration that you already live in abundance, and the universe always gives more to those who recognize its gifts. Fear is the only enemy of supply, for fear shuts the door to the flow. Fear whispers that the money won't come, that the job may be lost, that the bills are too great. But fear is only an illusion, a shadow with no substance of its own. When fear arises, confront it with truth. Declare, there is no lack in divine mind. Infinite substance is my supply, and it never fails. With each declaration, fear dissolves and faith takes its place. And where faith dwells, abundance follows. To live in this truth is to live in freedom. You no longer chase money anxiously, nor cling to it desperately. You walk with calm assurance, knowing that your supply is infinite and cannot run dry. Money becomes your servant, not your master. Opportunities come to you with ease because you radiate the consciousness of abundance. Others sense your confidence and are drawn to it, offering partnerships, gifts, and avenues of increase. The world reflects back to you the richness you already carry within. Remember always that divine substance is not just for you alone. It is infinite, and there is enough for all. As you prosper, you become a channel of blessing to others. You share freely, give generously, and circulate wealth with joy, knowing that whatever you release returns to you multiplied. In this way, you step into the great rhythm of supply, a rhythm that grows richer with every beat. So when you command your first dollar, see it not as a small thing, but as the doorway to unlimited riches. That $1 is made of the same divine substance as 1,000,000, just as a drop of water is made of the same essence as the ocean. By recognizing it as divine, by blessing it, and by giving thanks for it, you open yourself to greater and greater expressions of the infinite. Divine substance is unlimited supply, and it is yours now. All that you desire, all that you require, is already present in invisible form, waiting only for your word of command. Speak it forth, believe it, and walk in the joy of knowing that abundance is your birthright and that your first dollar, your first million, and every blessing beyond is flowing to you here and now. The first dollar or the first million is never the true wealth. It is only a symbol, a signpost pointing toward the endless river of divine substance that flows through the universe. Money itself is not the reality, but the shadow cast by the greater truth of abundance. To grasp this is to understand that your first dollar is as sacred as your first million, for both are made of the same invisible essence. The difference is not in the supply, but in the consciousness that receives it. The dollar is a token, the million is a token, and both point to the one infinite source from which all good flows. When you hold your first dollar with reverence, blessing it as a manifestation of divine substance, you are establishing a pattern that opens the way for unlimited increase. That dollar is the proof that the invisible has taken form for you, that the unseen has answered your call. To treat it lightly or dismiss it as too small is to dishonor the seed that contains the forest. A single acorn may seem insignificant, yet within it lies the blueprint for a mighty oak. Likewise, the first dollar you receive by the power of your spoken word holds within it the vibration of millions yet to come. The universe speaks in symbols. It sends you signs to show that your prayer is heard, that your command is being fulfilled. The first small manifestation is never to be ignored, for it is the divine whisper assuring you that the law is working. Just as a farmer rejoices when he sees the first green shoot breaking through the soil, so must you rejoice when the first coin, the first dollar, or the first opportunity appears. It is not the final harvest, but it is the beginning. It is the sign that the soil is fertile, that the seed has taken root, and that a great abundance is on its way. The human mind often despises small beginnings. It longs for the grand prize, the million in hand, the complete fulfillment of desire, and it overlooks the humble token that appears first. Yet the divine mind teaches that whoever is faithful with little will be made ruler over much. If you can give thanks for the first dollar, if you can bless it as a miracle and a symbol of divine substance, then you open yourself to the floodgates of increase. Gratitude for the small is the key to receiving the great. The first dollar and the first million are made of the same spirit. They differ only in scale. The same law that brings you one will bring you the other, for the law knows no limit. To divine substance, there is no difference between manifesting a single coin and manifesting an empire of riches. The limit exists only in the human thought that doubts, fears, or measures. When you dissolve those doubts and embrace the truth of unlimited supply, then the million flows as freely as the dollar, and the dollar arrives as surely as the million. Symbols are powerful because they carry meaning. When you bless your first dollar as the symbol of unlimited wealth, you charge it with spiritual energy. You may place it in your wallet, not to spend, but to remind you that divine substance is ever with you. Each time you see it, you affirm, "This dollar is the seed of millions. This is the symbol of my unbroken connection to infinite supply." The dollar then becomes a talisman of faith, a visible reminder of an invisible truth. And as you honor that symbol, greater and greater symbols appear, fives, tens, hundreds, thousands, until the millions come with ease. Consider how a drop of water reflects the entire ocean. The drop is not separate from the ocean, it is the ocean in miniature. In the same way, the first dollar is the universe in miniature, a condensed expression of infinite wealth. When you look at it with spiritual eyes, you see not its smallness, but its greatness. For within that dollar lies the full power of divine substance, ready to multiply and expand. To despise the drop is to miss the ocean it represents. To bless the drop is to invite the ocean to pour forth. This truth frees you from the trap of impatience. You no longer demand that millions arrive at once, nor do you fall into despair if only a little appears at first. You understand that the little is not less than, but simply the first step of a greater unfolding. You rejoice in every token, every symbol, for you know each is part of a larger tapestry. The first dollar is not a delay, it is evidence that the process has begun. To celebrate it is to accelerate the flow. To doubt it is to block the channel. In this way, you come to see all money as symbolic. A bill in your hand, a coin in your pocket, a check in the mail, all are symbols of the divine substance that never ceases. You do not cling to them as though they were the source. Instead, you use them joyfully, circulate them freely, knowing that as symbols they always return multiplied. Just as one candle can light 1,000 without diminishing its own flame, so $1 sent out in gratitude can return as 1,000. The symbol grows, expands, and multiplies, always pointing back to the inexhaustible substance that birthed it. Thus, the first dollar is not small, nor is the first million large. Both are alike in their essence. Both are divine symbols, gifts of spirit, messages from the unseen assuring you that you are one with abundance. To command your first dollar is to prove the law. To command your first million is to prove it again on a larger scale. But in truth, the law is the same. The supply is the same. The substance is the same. Only your recognition of it grows, until you see that there is no difference at all. The spoken word is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, the invisible and the visible, the spiritual and the material. Every word you utter is a seed cast into the fertile soil of divine substance, and in time, it must bring forth a harvest according to its kind. Words are not idle sounds that vanish into the air. They are living forces, clothed with energy and purpose, charged with the power of creation itself. What you speak consistently, with feeling and faith, becomes the reality that surrounds you. Your world is but the echo of your words. The ancient wisdom declares, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." This is not mere poetry, it is the description of a law. Creation begins with the spoken word. The word shapes substance, gives it direction, molds it into form. When you say, "I am prosperous," divine substance begins to take the shape of prosperity around you. When you say, "I lack," the same substance takes the shape of limitation. The law is impersonal, it obeys your command whether for good or ill. Therefore, the greatest gift given to man is the power of speech, for by speech he decrees his destiny. Every time you declare something about yourself, you are writing in the book of your life. If you say, "Money always slips through my fingers," you inscribe lack into your experience. If you say, "Wealth comes to me in miraculous ways," you inscribe abundance. Words spoken with conviction sink deep into the subconscious, where they take root and grow into circumstances. Many complain about the conditions of their lives without realizing that their own words have planted the seeds of those very conditions. They say, "I can't afford it. I never get a break. Nothing ever works out for me." and the law fulfills their words with absolute precision. To reverse this, you must become master of your tongue. Speak only what you wish to see. Declare only what you desire to manifest. Instead of saying, "I can't afford this," affirm, "Divine substance is my supply, and it flows to me for every need." Instead of declaring, "I never get opportunities," say, "Infinite Spirit opens wide the doors of opportunity for me, and I walk through with courage." Words create the mold into which substance flows, so choose your words carefully, for the universe listens and obeys. The spoken word is even more powerful when charged with emotion. Words uttered without feeling are like seeds scattered on barren ground, but words spoken with faith, joy, gratitude, and conviction take deep root and bear swift fruit. When you command wealth with joy in your voice, you set vibrations into motion that magnetize supply to you. When you pray with thanksgiving, you already feel the blessing as though it were here, and the universe rushes to confirm your feeling. Gratitude in your words is a magnet that pulls the unseen into the seen. Repetition is another secret of the spoken word. Just as a drop of water falling repeatedly upon stone can carve a path, so repeated affirmations carve new channels in the mind. The subconscious may resist at first, clinging to old patterns of doubt, but steady repetition dissolves the resistance. Every time you declare the truth, you weaken the hold of error. Every time you speak abundance, you erase a shadow of lack. Soon the subconscious accepts the new pattern, and once accepted, it works tirelessly to outpicture it in your reality. The spoken word also summons unseen helpers. Angels, opportunities, and circumstances align to fulfill your decree. When you affirm, "All that is mine by divine right now comes to me," you are sending out a command into the universe, and invisible forces move to bring it about. You need not see how it will happen. Your part is only to speak the word in faith. The how is the work of divine law. As Florence Scovel Shinn taught, your word is your wand. You need only wave it with certainty, and miracles follow. There is creative power even in casual conversation. Many destroy their good by careless words spoken in jest or complaint. They say, "I'm always broke. Life is hard. I'm sick and tired," without realizing that these words plant seeds of poverty, hardship, and illness. The law does not distinguish between serious words and careless ones. It simply fulfills whatever is spoken with emotion and repetition. Therefore, guard your tongue as a sacred instrument. Speak blessings, not curses. Speak health, not sickness. Speak wealth, not lack. Speak love, not bitterness. Each word is a decree, and every decree shapes your tomorrow. The spoken word also works in silence. When you are alone, your inner speech, the words you mutter to yourself, carry the same creative force. If outwardly you affirm prosperity, but inwardly say, "This will never work for me," the inner word cancels the outer. To truly harness the power, align your inner and outer speech. Let your silent self-talk agree with your spoken affirmations. Say within yourself, "I am one with infinite supply. Abundance is mine now," until your heart and lips speak the same language. One of the greatest practices is to charge your words with divine authority. Instead of begging or pleading, command with certainty. Do not say, "I hope money comes to me." Say, "Money comes to me now, under grace and in perfect ways." Do not say, "I wish I could succeed." Say, "Success is mine now, by divine right." Speak with the authority of a child claiming his inheritance, for abundance is your inheritance. The universe responds to confidence and command, not to timidity and fear. When you understand that words create, you become careful and deliberate in speech. You no longer join in gossip, complaint, or idle chatter of failure. Instead, you bless others with your words, knowing that what you send out returns multiplied. When you say, "I bless you with abundance," you sow seeds of prosperity for another and for yourself. When you declare, "I see you successful and joyful," you send forth power that lifts both you and the one you bless. Words are never wasted, they are always shaping some reality. The most powerful word you can speak is, "I am," for whatever follows those two words becomes a decree of identity. If you say, "I am poor," you bind yourself to poverty. If you say, "I am rich in divine substance," you bind yourself to wealth. Never misuse the words, "I am," for they are the name of the divine within you. To declare I am is to call the power of God into manifestation. Speak it with reverence and with truth. I am prosperous. I am healthy. I am guided. I am blessed. Each declaration summons the infinite to express through you. The spoken word is not magic, yet it works with precision like a law of mathematics. You may not see the results instantly, but the law is always working. Just as a farmer does not doubt that the seed will grow though it lies hidden in the earth, so must you trust your words though the manifestation is not yet visible. In time, your harvest must come. Every word spoken in faith is a seed that cannot fail to bear fruit. There is no lack in divine mind, for divine mind is fullness itself. The universe is not built upon shortage but upon infinite supply, and every atom of creation testifies to this abundance. Look at the stars scattered across the night sky, uncountable, dazzling, spread across distances so vast the human mind cannot grasp them. Look at the grains of sand upon the seashore, the drops of water in the ocean, the blades of grass covering the earth. Everywhere, the pattern of creation is excess, overflow, more than enough. This is the signature of divine mind, which knows no poverty, no limitation, no insufficiency. When men and women speak of lack, they are speaking not of truth but of illusion. Lack is a thought, not a reality. It is a belief, not a fact. It arises in the finite mind when it separates itself from the infinite. The moment a person sees themselves cut off from their source, they imagine scarcity. But in truth, no one can be cut off, for divine mind is the very breath of life, the substance of existence, and the inexhaustible supply that sustains all creation. Just as a ray of sunlight cannot be separated from the sun, so you cannot be separated from the abundance of divine mind. Consider the birds of the air. They do not hoard, they do not toil in fear, yet their needs are met day by day. Consider the lilies of the field. They do not labor anxiously, yet they are clothed in splendor greater than kings. These are not fables but reminders from the universe that lack is unknown in the language of divine mind. Only the human ego invents the concept of not enough. Spirit knows only always enough, forever enough, overflowing and abundant. When you look into your purse and see emptiness, remember that it is only an appearance. Appearances are shadows, they are not the reality. The reality is that divine substance, invisible and unlimited, surrounds you even now, waiting for you to recognize it, to call it forth, to claim it as your own. The empty purse is a lie, the truth is fullness. The barren account is an illusion, the reality is overflowing supply. Just as clouds may hide the sun but cannot extinguish it, so lack may appear in your life but cannot exist in divine mind. The moment you pierce through the illusion with faith, the abundance shines forth once more. To dwell on lack is to hypnotize yourself with shadows. To dwell on abundance is to align with truth. This is why the words you speak and the thoughts you hold are so important, for they either bind you to illusion or set you free in reality. If you say, I am poor, you give power to the illusion. If you say, I am one with divine mind, and I lack nothing, you awaken to the truth. The law is always at work, bringing into form whatever consciousness you hold most firmly. The error of mankind has been to look only at appearances and to forget the unseen substance. People measure wealth by the coins in their pocket or the numbers in their bank, forgetting that these are only symbols of a deeper reality. Divine substance is the root, money is the fruit. Divine mind is the ocean, the visible dollars are only the drops. To mistake the drop for the source is to fall into fear. But when you remember the ocean, fear dissolves. You say to yourself, I am never without supply, for my supply is infinite, invisible, and ever flowing. With faith is the eye that sees beyond lack. With faith, you do not deny what your senses show, but you refuse to accept it as the final truth. You may see an empty cupboard, but in faith you declare, divine mind knows no lack, and my cupboard is filled by divine right. You may see a debt upon your desk, but in faith you say, divine substance pays this in perfect ways. And as you speak these words, the unseen begins to shift, doors begin to open, and the outer conditions change to match the inner truth. Gratitude is another key that lifts you out of lack consciousness. Even in moments when you feel you have little, give thanks for what is present. Bless the clothes upon your back, the food upon your table, the roof over your head. Bless even the smallest coin in your hand, and say, "This is proof of infinite supply, and more is on the way." Gratitude magnifies the good, and in magnifying it, draws more of it into your life. A grateful heart cannot dwell in lack, for it sees abundance everywhere. It is also important to release envy and comparison, for these are rooted in the false belief of scarcity. To envy another's wealth is to believe that their gain is your loss. But in divine mind, there is enough for all. The wealth of another does not diminish you. It proves that abundance is possible. Bless the prosperity you see in others and declare, "That which God has done for them, God is doing for me." In this way, you align yourself with the truth that supply is limitless and freely available to all who claim it. Many struggle because they believe supply must come through limited channels, through one job, one person, one opportunity. But divine mind has infinite channels. If one closes, another opens. If one fails, another succeeds. You need not cling to a single source, for the true source is spirit, and spirit has 1,000 ways you have not yet imagined. To be anxious when one door shuts is to forget that there are infinite doors. The river of supply is ever flowing, and it finds its way to you through the easiest, quickest, and most harmonious means. Affirm often, "There is no lack in divine mind. Therefore, there is no lack in my life. All that I need is supplied to me now, under grace and in perfect ways." Let these words sink deep into your heart, for they are the truth. Repeat them when fear whispers. Repeat them when appearances frighten you. Repeat them until they drown out every voice of doubt. As you do, you will find your outer world reshaping itself, mirroring the abundance that has always been yours in spirit. The more you dwell in this truth, the more fearless you become. Fear of poverty vanishes, fear of loss dissolves, fear of tomorrow fades. You walk with assurance, knowing that divine mind holds your every need already fulfilled. You look at the world not as a place of competition and scarcity, but as a garden of infinite supply, where every flower blooms in its own season, and every soul is sustained without fail. You move through life with the calm dignity of one who knows they are heir to the riches of the universe. No lack exists in divine mind. This is the foundation upon which all prosperity teaching rests. If lack were real, no affirmation could change it, no prayer could dissolve it, no faith could overcome it. But because lack is only illusion, it vanishes the moment truth is spoken. The truth is abundance, fullness, completeness, and that truth is eternal. To live in it is to step out of shadows into light, out of fear into faith, out of poverty into plenty. To command with authority is to stand in your rightful place as a child of the infinite, knowing that what you decree with faith must come to pass. Authority is the language of spirit, for spirit does not beg, spirit does not waver, spirit does not plead for favors, spirit speaks the word, and it is done. You are created in that same image, and the same power is in your spoken word when it is charged with certainty. Doubt weakens the current, but authority magnifies it until it becomes irresistible. When you speak with authority, you speak as one who knows, not as one who hopes. Many prayers are ineffective because they are filled with uncertainty. A person begs, pleads, and hopes, saying, "Please, may I have this," as though the infinite were reluctant to give. But the infinite has already given. Supply is already yours. Abundance already belongs to you. And divine substance is forever ready to take shape as soon as you command it. To plead is to imply separation. To command is to affirm unity. When you command, you acknowledge that you and the source are one, and that what you speak is already accomplished in spirit. Think of a king who issues a decree. He does not beg his subjects to obey, nor does he wring his hands wondering if his word will be carried out. He speaks with calm authority, and the decree is law. In the same way, when you speak in alignment with divine law, your word becomes law in your experience. You need not ask repeatedly, nor worry about results. You speak once with authority, and then you rest, knowing that the law is fulfilling your decree. Authority comes from recognition of truth. You do not need to force your words with strain, for true authority is calm, steady, and confident. It does not shout, nor does it tremble. It simply knows. When you say, "Infinite Spirit," Open the way for my supply. You say it as one who is certain it is done. You do not look around anxiously for signs. You rest in the assurance that unseen forces are already at work, shaping circumstances, moving people, arranging events to fulfill your command. Doubt is the great thief of manifestation. It creeps into the mind whispering, "What if it doesn't work? What if I'm fooling myself? What if I fail?" These thoughts weaken the vibration of your words, scattering their power. It is like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to see if it is growing. The seed cannot sprout under such conditions. In the same way, your word cannot bear fruit if it is constantly uprooted by doubt. Authority silences doubt. It says, "It is done. I do not question how. I only know it is already fulfilled." To command with authority, you must erase the idea of separation from the divine. Many think of God as distant, withholding, or selective in blessing. But the truth is that the divine is closer than your breath, desiring to express abundance through you. When you see yourself as one with divine mind, your command becomes natural. You no longer beg for what is already yours. You claim it as your inheritance. You say, "I am the heir of infinite substance, and I now receive what is mine by divine right." These words carry power because they are aligned with truth. Authority is not arrogance, for arrogance says, "I am separate and I can force my will." True authority is humility, for it recognizes, "I and the Father are one. It is not I, but Spirit within me that speaks the word and fulfills it." In this humility, there is strength, for you know you are backed by the infinite power of the universe. Just as a child speaks with assurance in the presence of a loving parent, so you speak with confidence in the presence of Spirit, knowing that every word is supported by divine law. One of the most powerful affirmations is, "I speak the word and it is established. What I decree comes to me now, under grace and in perfect ways." Say this not as a request, but as a command. Say it with the quiet strength of certainty. Feel the authority in your voice, the conviction in your heart, and the alignment with Spirit in your soul. As you do, you will sense the shift in energy. You will feel that invisible forces are already moving, that doors are opening, that supply is flowing. To practice authority, begin with small things. Command a parking space to appear when you need it. Command a delayed payment to arrive. Command a small gift of money to come to you. When these things occur, as they surely will, you build confidence in the law. Then move on to greater demonstrations. Command your business to flourish, your debts to dissolve, your millions to appear. Each demonstration strengthens your authority until you speak as one who knows beyond all doubt. The key is to speak once with authority and then let go. Do not repeat anxiously, for repetition in fear is doubt. Instead, give thanks that it is done. Gratitude seals the command. When you say, "I give thanks that my word is fulfilled," you release the matter to divine law and allow it to work unhindered. Gratitude is the calm after the command, the assurance that the decree is already carried out. Command is not force. You do not need to push or strain, for force belongs to the realm of fear. Authority belongs to the realm of truth. When you speak truth, the universe aligns naturally, without struggle. You do not make the sun rise by force, it rises because it is law. In the same way, your command is fulfilled not by effort but by law. You speak, and the law does the work. Authority also means refusing to contradict your command. If you declare, "I am prosperous," but later complain, "I can't afford this," you weaken your word. Authority is consistent. It does not change its decree with every passing mood. Once the word is spoken, it remains fixed. Hold fast to your decree until it manifests. Speak abundance, think abundance, act abundance. Refuse to let fear, gossip, or negativity steal your word. Guard it as a sacred seed, and it will grow into a mighty harvest. When you command with authority, you walk in a new confidence. You no longer see yourself as a victim of chance, but as a creator with the power of the spoken word. You no longer beg life to treat you kindly, you declare life to be kind. You no longer fear poverty, you decree wealth. You no longer wonder if you are worthy, you affirm that worthiness is your birthright. Each command strengthens your alignment with divine mind, until you live each day as a master of circumstances rather than a servant of appearances. Your authority does not come from your human self, but from the divine within you. When you speak with that authority, mountains move, seas part, and invisible riches take form before your eyes. Doubt cannot enter, for authority leaves no room for hesitation. You say the word, you believe the word, you give thanks for the word, and you rest in the joy of knowing it is already done. They may mock, resist, or even abandon you. But obedience is never about pleasing people. It is about aligning with God. Those who obey stand apart because they are willing to endure misunderstanding for the sake of destiny. History remembers them not for their comfort, but for their courage. The cost of obedience is temporary, but the reward is eternal. Obedience also creates alignment. When you follow divine instruction, your life begins to flow in harmony with heaven's rhythm. Things that once felt forced start to move smoothly. Opportunities align, doors open, and resources flow. Not because you manipulated them, but because your obedience positioned you correctly. Disobedience creates friction and struggle. Obedience creates alignment and ease. It does not mean there will be no challenges, but it means you will always find provision for the path you are on, because it is the one God ordained. Obedience transforms you. It is not only about what you achieve, but about who you become. Each act of obedience shapes your character, humbles your heart, and aligns you more with God's nature. Over time, obedience develops resilience, discipline, and maturity. It takes you from being driven by impulse to being led by principle. The true reward of obedience is not just external success, but internal transformation. You become a vessel fit for greater purpose. A life aligned not with human ambition, but with divine destiny. Faith in God's timing is one of the hardest lessons to learn. Yet it is the very foundation of peace and success in life. Human nature is impatient. We want results instantly, breakthroughs immediately, and blessings without delay. But divine timing does not operate according to human clocks. It is higher, wiser, and always perfect. To live aligned with God's wisdom, you must not only trust His direction, but also His schedule. The right thing at the wrong time can be just as damaging as the wrong thing altogether. Faith in God's timing is the assurance that He knows when to release opportunities, when to open doors, and when to withhold something for your protection and preparation. When you look at nature, you see how divine timing is woven into everything. Seeds do not sprout instantly. They require seasons of watering, sunlight, and waiting. A farmer cannot rush the harvest no matter how much he desires it. In the same way, the seeds of purpose in your life require time to develop. Rushing the process leads to premature results that cannot sustain themselves. Faith in timing means being willing to wait with trust, knowing that every season serves a purpose. Some are for planting, some for pruning, and some for reaping. Without this faith, impatience will drive you to force outcomes that are not yet ready, and instead of blessing, they bring burden. The waiting season often feels uncomfortable because it exposes your dependence on control. People like to plan, predict, and guarantee outcomes. But waiting on God strips you of the illusion of control and teaches you surrender. It is in the waiting that faith is refined. Do you still believe even when nothing is changing? Do you still trust when doors remain closed? Faith in timing means believing that silence is not absence, delay is not denial, and waiting is not wasted time. In reality, waiting seasons are often seasons of preparation. While it seems like nothing is happening on the outside, everything is being arranged behind the scenes. Relationships are being aligned, resources are being prepared, and you are being developed into the person who can handle the blessing when it arrives. Impatience has destroyed many destinies. Think of those who could not wait for the right moment and took matters into their own hands. Abraham and Sarah, wary of waiting for the promised child, tried to manufacture the promise through Hagar. The result was conflict that lasted for generations. King Saul, impatient to wait for the prophet Samuel, offered a sacrifice he had no authority to make. His impatience cost him the kingdom. These examples remind us that moving ahead of God's timing always carries consequences. What looks like a shortcut is actually a detour that prolongs the journey. Faith in timing prevents you from sabotaging your own destiny by acting too soon. On the other hand, waiting produces maturity. When you are forced to wait, you develop patience, discipline, and resilience. These qualities are not optional. They are necessary for sustaining the blessings you seek. Without patience, wealth becomes mismanaged. Without discipline, influence becomes corrupted. Without resilience, success crumbles under pressure. The waiting season builds within you the character required to handle the next season. To resist waiting is to resist growth. Faith in timing means embracing the season you are in, trusting that it is shaping you for what is ahead. Faith in God's timing also protects you from discouragement. Many give up because they expect instant results. They start a business, a ministry, a vision, or a new habit, and when fruit does not appear immediately, they assume it has failed. But the absence of immediate results does not mean failure. It often means process. The oak tree does not grow overnight, yet it becomes one of the strongest trees on earth. Likewise, your dream may be in seed form today, but with faith and patience, it will become unshakable in time. Faith in timing empowers you to keep sowing, keep watering, and keep believing even when evidence is not yet visible. Another dimension of faith in timing is rest. When you truly believe that God's timing is perfect, you release the anxiety of trying to control outcomes. You no longer live in constant stress, striving to make everything happen by your own effort. Instead, you rest in the assurance that what is meant for you will arrive at the right time and nothing can stop it. Rest is not passivity. It is active trust. It means you keep working diligently, but without the weight of worry. You move forward, but without panic. You plan, but you also surrender. Resting in God's timing brings peace in the middle of uncertainty, because you know that the future is not in your hands but in His. Faith in timing also reveals humility. To trust the divine schedule is to admit that you do not know best. Human pride wants to dictate when things should happen, but humility bows to a higher wisdom. It recognizes that God sees the beginning, the middle, and the end while you see only a fragment. To submit to His timing is to honor His authority and accept His sovereignty. This humility positions you for greater grace, because grace flows to those who trust, not those who resist. There is also a joy that comes from alignment with divine timing. When you wait and then see the breakthrough come at the exact right moment, it fills you with gratitude and awe. You realize that had it come earlier, you would not have been ready, and had it come later, you might have missed it. The precision of divine timing makes the blessing even sweeter because it reveals the care and attention of a God who knows you intimately. Every detail, every delay, every door closed and then opened, it all fits into a perfect pattern that only He could design. Faith in timing turns frustration into expectation, because you know the longer the wait, the greater the preparation for what is to come. Faith in timing also protects you from comparison. In a world where people constantly measure their lives against others, it is easy to feel behind. You see others achieving success, entering relationships, or receiving opportunities, and you wonder why your turn has not come. But when you believe in divine timing, you stop comparing. You understand that your path is unique, your season is different, and your story cannot be rushed. Comparison loses its power because you are anchored in the confidence that your moment will come exactly when it is supposed to. Faith in God's timing produces freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom from rushing, freedom from envy, and freedom from regret. You no longer live burdened by the need to control, but liberated by trust. You wake up each day knowing that if today is for sowing, you will sow faithfully. If today is for waiting, you will wait patiently. If today is for reaping, you will reap joyfully. Every day has meaning because every day is part of a larger plan. And when the appointed time arrives, nothing and no one can stop the manifestation of what has been promised. Faith in timing is not passive resignation. It is active confidence in a God who is never late, never early, but always right on time. When you commit to walking with God as your consultant, you cannot ignore the reality of spiritual opposition. Every time you align your life with divine principles, every time you choose obedience over compromise, and every time you dare to pursue a purpose greater than yourself, resistance will come. The moment you step into God's plan, forces contrary to His will rise to discourage, distract, or derail you. This is not something to fear, but something to be aware of, because awareness gives you strength and preparation. Recognizing that opposition is inevitable allows you to interpret challenges not as signs of failure, but as confirmation that you are on the right path. Spiritual opposition rarely appears in obvious forms. It does not always come as a direct attack that you can clearly identify. More often it is subtle, disguised as frustration, confusion, doubt, or unnecessary conflict. Sometimes it manifests through discouraging thoughts, whispering that you are unworthy or incapable. Other times it comes through people, critics, skeptics, or even well-meaning loved ones who tell you to abandon your path because it looks too risky or illogical. Spiritual resistance can also appear in external circumstances, doors closing, delays piling up, or unexpected difficulties that make you question whether you heard God correctly. Without discernment, you may mistake this opposition for a sign to quit, when in truth, it is evidence that you are pressing into territory that matters. Every great vision faces opposition. Joseph dreamed of leadership and was thrown into a pit by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned unjustly before reaching the palace. David was anointed king as a boy, but spent years running for his life from Saul before sitting on the throne. Nehemiah set out to rebuild Jerusalem's walls and immediately faced ridicule, sabotage, and threats. Even Jesus, the embodiment of divine purpose, was opposed at every step. From the wilderness temptation to the cross, these stories reveal a consistent pattern. Opposition intensifies in proportion to the greatness of the assignment. If your journey feels unusually difficult, it may be because your destiny carries unusual significance. The danger is not in the opposition itself, but in how you respond to it. Many people, when faced with resistance, assume they must have missed God's direction. They think if this were really God's will, it would be easier. But the truth is often the opposite. The enemy does not waste resources fighting someone who poses no threat. Resistance is often a signal that you are aligned with a divine purpose that threatens darkness. Instead of seeing obstacles as reasons to quit, you must learn to interpret them as confirmations that you are exactly where you should be. Faith allows you to keep moving, not in spite of opposition, but through it, confident that what is against you cannot overcome what is within you. Spiritual opposition is also designed to test your endurance. Anyone can stay motivated when things are easy. The true test of faith is whether you remain steadfast when nothing seems to be working in your favor. Opposition pushes you to deepen your reliance on God, to pray more fervently, to sharpen your vision, and to clarify your commitment. Without resistance, faith remains shallow and untested. With resistance, it becomes strong, resilient, and unshakable. Just as muscles grow under pressure, your spiritual capacity grows under opposition. What feels like an attack may actually be training, preparing you to carry the weight of greater blessings ahead. It is also important to understand that spiritual opposition often targets your mind. The battlefield of faith is primarily mental. Doubt, fear, worry, and discouragement are the weapons most often used to weaken your resolve. If the enemy can convince you to give up in your thoughts, the battle is already won. This is why guarding your mind is crucial. Filling it with truth, affirming promises, and rejecting lies becomes your shield against subtle attacks. Victory begins not in external circumstances, but in your ability to hold fast to what God has said, even when everything around you screams the opposite. Sometimes opposition even serves as redirection. Not every closed door is an enemy attack. Some are divine kingdom principles: integrity, generosity, obedience, protection. The wisdom lies in discerning the difference. If a door closes but peace remains, you can be assured it was not meant for you at this time. If resistance arises, but you feel compelled to persevere, then it is a test of faith, not a signal to retreat. Discernment keeps you from misinterpreting challenges. It helps you distinguish between opposition meant to strengthen you and guidance meant to redirect you. Both are tools in God's hand to keep you aligned with His perfect plan. When you face opposition, it is vital not to fight with the same weapons the world uses. Anger, manipulation, revenge, or despair will only drain your energy and derail your focus. The true weapons of victory are spiritual: prayer, faith, patience, love, and perseverance. Opposition is not overcome by reacting in the flesh, but by standing firm in the spirit. This does not mean passivity. It means choosing strategies that align with higher wisdom. When you respond with integrity and faith, even your enemies end up serving your growth. What was meant to harm you becomes the very tool that lifts you higher. Another truth about opposition is that it often precedes breakthrough. The darkest nights often come just before dawn. The fiercest resistance often comes just before release. Many give up at the very edge of their miracle because the pressure feels unbearable. But if they had endured a little longer, they would have seen the breakthrough waiting on the other side. Opposition grows most intense when the enemy knows you are close to advancing. Faith in those moments requires stubborn endurance, the refusal to quit, and the assurance that if you do not faint, you will reap in due season. It is also worth remembering that opposition exposes weakness. It reveals where your faith still wavers, where your patience is thin, or where your trust is incomplete. Instead of resenting opposition, use it as a mirror to identify areas that need growth. Each challenge becomes a teacher, showing you where to strengthen your foundation. If you allow it, opposition will refine you until nothing can move you. What once shook you will eventually strengthen you. The very resistance that tried to break you will become the reason you are unshakable. The most powerful perspective shift is to stop seeing opposition as an enemy and start seeing it as evidence of destiny. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" begin asking, "What is this preparing me for?" With this mindset, every obstacle becomes an opportunity, every setback a setup, and every trial a training ground. Faith reframes opposition as part of the journey, not a detour from it. Those who understand this truth carry unshakable peace. They do not panic when storms arise because they know storms cannot cancel purpose. They do not crumble under pressure because they know pressure only produces perseverance. They do not fear opposition because they know greater is He that is within them than anything that rises against them. Faith in the midst of opposition does not deny the challenge, but declares that it cannot define the outcome. Walking with God as your consultant requires more than listening to His wisdom. It demands obedience and action. Wisdom without obedience is useless, and knowledge without implementation produces no transformation. Many hear divine guidance, sense clear nudges in their spirit, or receive confirmation after confirmation, yet hesitate to act because of fear, doubt, or comfort. But faith is never passive. Faith is movement. It is stepping out when everything in your natural mind says wait. It is obeying even when you do not see the outcome. Without action, obedience remains incomplete. And without obedience, wisdom cannot fulfill its purpose in your life. Obedience is the highest demonstration of trust. To say, "I believe," is easy. To prove belief through action is what separates those who merely talk faith from those who live it. When God instructs you to forgive someone who wronged you, logic may protest, but obedience brings freedom. When He leads you to give, when resources look scarce, logic warns of loss, but obedience unlocks provision. When He nudges you to take a step toward a dream that seems impossible, hesitation tells you to wait, but obedience opens doors that logic could never predict. Each act of obedience becomes a seed planted into the soil of destiny, and every harvest in your life will be traced back to seeds of obedience sown in faith. One of the challenges is that obedience often feels inconvenient. It rarely fits into your schedule, your comfort zone, or your preconceived plans. When Noah was instructed to build the ark, it required decades of hard labor, ridicule from others, and complete abandonment of his personal comfort. When Abraham was called to sacrifice Isaac, obedience meant laying down the very promise he had waited for years to receive. When Moses confronted Pharaoh, it required courage to stand against the most powerful ruler of his time. In each case, obedience looked costly in the moment, but produced blessings beyond imagination in the long run. Obedience may cost you comfort temporarily, but disobedience costs you destiny eternally. Another truth is that partial obedience is still disobedience. Many try to obey selectively, doing only what feels reasonable while ignoring the parts that feel inconvenient. But selective obedience cannot unlock the fullness of blessing. Saul obeyed partially when he spared the best livestock, and King Ag, despite being instructed to destroy everything, his compromise cost him the kingdom. True obedience is complete, immediate, and unconditional. It does not wait for convenience. It responds in faith even when the cost is high. To delay or dilute obedience is to rob yourself of the fullness of what God intends for you. Obedience also requires courage, because it often leads you into unknown territory. God rarely shows you the entire path in advance. He gives you one step at a time, requiring trust for the next. This is why so many hesitate. They want guarantees before moving. But faith does not operate with guarantees. It operates with assurance. Assurance that the one who called you is faithful. Assurance that his plan is good, and assurance that his wisdom never fails. Every great journey of destiny begins with a single step of obedience. That step may feel small, but it sets in motion a chain of events beyond your imagination. Action proves belief. If you truly believe in divine wisdom, your actions will reflect it. If you say you trust God as your consultant, but continue to act based solely on your own logic, your words are empty. The test of faith is always in the doing. It is in the risk you take, the decisions you make, and the sacrifices you embrace. Even the smallest act of obedience can carry eternal weight. When the widow of Zarephath obeyed the prophet's instruction to give her last meal, her obedience sustained her through famine. When the servants at the wedding filled jars with water at Jesus' command, their obedience turned water into wine. The miracles were not random. They were unlocked by action rooted in obedience. Fear is one of the greatest enemies of obedience. Fear asks, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if people mock me? But faith asks, what if God shows up? What if this step changes everything? What if obedience brings breakthrough? The difference between fear and faith is focus. Fear focuses on what could go wrong, while faith focuses on who is leading the way. When you shift your focus from your weakness to God's strength, fear loses its grip, and obedience becomes possible. Obedience also develops discipline. Every time you obey, you strengthen your ability to hear clearly, respond quickly, and trust deeply. This creates a cycle where hearing leads to doing, and doing leads to greater clarity. Many wonder why they cannot hear God clearly, but often it is because they have ignored previous instructions. Why would God give new direction if past instructions remain unfulfilled? Obedience keeps the channel of communication open while disobedience clogs it. The more you obey, the clearer his voice becomes and the stronger your confidence grows. Another dimension of obedience is perseverance. Sometimes obedience requires not just a single act but consistent action over time. It may mean showing up daily, suing faithfully, working diligently, or persisting in prayer. It may mean continuing to forgive every time resentment arises, or continuing to give even when lack surrounds you. Obedience is not always dramatic. Often it is steady, unseen, and uncelebrated. Yet it is this quiet, consistent obedience that produces lasting fruit. Sudden breakthroughs are usually the result of long-term obedience that accumulated unseen until the appointed time. It is also important to remember that obedience blesses not only you but also others. Your decision to act in faith can ripple across generations. Abraham's obedience birthed a covenant blessing that still endured. Ruth's obedience to follow Naomi led to a lineage that produced King David and eventually the Messiah. Your obedience may feel personal, but its impact is generational. Conversely, your disobedience can also carry consequences beyond yourself. What you choose today will echo tomorrow, shaping not only your destiny, but also the lives connected to you. Obedience is the currency of the kingdom. It is the proof of love, the evidence of trust, and the pathway to blessing. You cannot claim to love God yet refuse his instructions, because love without obedience is sentiment, not truth. You cannot claim to trust him yet cling to your own way, because trust without action is illusion, not faith. Every time you obey, you demonstrate alignment with his will, and that alignment positions you for provision, protection, and promotion. Obedience is not about rules but relationship. It is not the rigid following of commands, but the joyful response of love. When you know that the one guiding you is good, faithful, and loving, obedience stops feeling like a burden and starts becoming a privilege. You realize that every instruction is not to restrict you but to protect you, to guide you into fullness, and to align you with destiny. The more you obey, the more you see the wisdom of His ways, and the more your heart delights in following. True success cannot be measured by numbers in a bank account, the size of a house, or the recognition of a crowd. Those things may reflect accomplishment, but they do not define real success. Genuine success is measured by alignment, your life walking in step with God's purpose, your actions reflecting His principles, your decisions guided by His wisdom, and your heart anchored in His peace. Without alignment, wealth feels empty, achievements feel hollow, and recognition feels fleeting. With alignment, even simple living carries a richness the world cannot understand. To walk in alignment is to live a life where every part of you, your vision, your goals, your values, your relationships is connected to the eternal flow of God's will. The world often paints success as something you chase. Work harder, climb faster, push stronger, and maybe you will achieve it. But alignment reveals that true success is not about frantic chasing. It is about positioning. When your life is aligned, blessings flow naturally because you are in the current of divine provision. Just as a river carries whatever is placed within it downstream, God's flow carries those who are aligned with Him into opportunities, favor, and abundance. Misalignment, on the other hand, leaves you struggling against the current, exhausted, and frustrated. Many people are not failing because they lack ability, but because they are misaligned. They are pursuing goals never meant for them, chasing approval that does not matter or building dreams not anchored in eternal truth. Alignment begins with values. If your values are rooted in greed, pride, or fear, no matter how high you climb, your success will crumble. But when your values are grounded in integrity, service, love, and faith, your success is built on a foundation that storms cannot destroy. Success built on deception may rise quickly, but it collapses just as fast. Success built on truth may take longer, but it lasts forever. The question is not just what you are building, but what you are building upon. Alignment with divine benevolence ensures that your foundation is unshakable. Peace is one of the clearest indicators of alignment. You may be busy, but do you have peace? You may be achieving, but do you sleep well at night? You may have recognition, but do you feel whole within? Success without peace is failure disguised as achievement. Many trade peace for profit, integrity for advancement, and joy for status. Yet in the end, they discover they gained the world but lost themselves. Alignment restores peace because you are no longer striving against truth, you are flowing with it. When your decisions, relationships, and pursuits align with God's wisdom, you walk in a calm assurance that no amount of money or applause can buy. Another indicator of alignment is fruitfulness. Fruitfulness is not just about producing results, but producing the right results. A tree may grow tall, but if it bears no fruit, it serves little purpose. In the same way, a person may achieve much by the world's standards, but fail to bear the fruit of love, generosity, wisdom, and impact. Alignment ensures that your efforts multiply into blessings, not just for yourself but for others. When your success nourishes others, lifts communities, strengthens families, and honors God, it is true fruitfulness. Anything less is empty achievement. Alignment also protects you from burnout. Misalignment drains energy because you are forcing outcomes that were never meant for you. You push harder but the doors remain shut. You invest more but the results disappoint. The struggle is not always in effort but in direction. When you are aligned, effort feels purposeful and even energizing. Work becomes worship, goals become assignments, and progress becomes natural. Burnout often reveals not that you are doing too much, but that you are doing the wrong things, or doing the right things with the wrong motives. Alignment restores clarity so that your energy flows into what truly matters. Another truth about alignment is that it simplifies life. Misalignment brings chaos, scattered priorities, conflicting goals, and constant confusion. But alignment brings clarity. You know what to say yes to and what to refuse. You recognize which opportunities are right and which distractions to avoid. You no longer chase every door because you trust the right one will open at the right time. Alignment creates focus, and focus creates progress. Many live overwhelmed not because they lack time, but because they lack alignment. Once they align with divine purpose, distractions lose their pull and life regains simplicity. Alignment also redefines prosperity. Prosperity is not just material wealth, it is wholeness. It is thriving in spirit, mind, body, and relationships. When you are aligned, you prosper in all these areas because you are not sacrificing one for the other. You are not rich in money but bankrupt in relationships. You are not successful in career but empty in soul. You are balanced, whole, and fulfilled. This is prosperity that cannot be stolen because it is not rooted in external circumstances but in internal alignment. One of the greatest benefits of alignment is impact. True success is not measured by what you accumulate, but by what you contribute. Misaligned people may gain recognition, but their legacy fades quickly. Aligned people, even if unseen by the masses, leave impact that outlives them. A teacher who invests in students, a parent who raises children in truth, an entrepreneur who serves obstacles, become opportunities through faith with integrity. All may not have global fame, but their aligned actions ripple through generations. Alignment ensures your life matters beyond the span of your years. Living aligned also removes the burden of comparison. Misalignment drives people to measure their success against others, leading to envy, insecurity, and striving. But alignment teaches you that your lane is unique. You no longer need to match someone else's timeline, income, or recognition. You are not behind or ahead. You are right where you need to be. Comparison loses power when you are aligned, because your only goal is to fulfill the purpose assigned to you, not to compete with anyone else. Alignment produces contentment, and contentment is one of the rarest forms of wealth. Alignment requires constant adjustment. Life pulls you in many directions and distractions are everywhere. Daily choices either bring you closer to alignment or pull you away from it. This is why reflection, prayer, and discernment are essential. Just as a compass continually points north, you must continually realign your actions with divine wisdom. Small misalignments over time can lead to large detours, but consistent recalibration ensures you remain on track. Success is not one grand decision, but the accumulation of daily choices rooted in alignment. Perhaps the greatest joy of alignment is freedom. You are free from the weight of pretending, free from chasing what doesn't matter, free from the slavery of public opinion, and free from the anxiety of missing out. Alignment allows you to live authentically, to wake each day with clarity, and to end each night with peace. You no longer measure yourself by worldly definitions of success, but by eternal alignment with purpose. And that freedom is success in its purest form, unshakable, lasting, and deeply fulfilling. True faith is not tested in moments of comfort, but in seasons of uncertainty. When everything is clear, when the path is smooth, and when provision is visible, trust requires little effort. But when the way is hidden, when resources seem scarce, and when tomorrow looks uncertain, faith becomes the anchor that keeps the heart steady. Faith is not merely believing that God exists. It is believing that He is faithful, that His promises are true, and that His plan is unfolding even when your eyes cannot yet see it. This kind of faith is not a passive hope. It is an active force shaping thoughts, guiding decisions, and sustaining courage. Many imagine faith as a feeling, but feelings shift like waves. Real faith is a decision, a deep choice to stand firm, even when emotions waver. You may feel fear, but faith declares, I will not bow to it. You may feel lack, but faith says, provision is already on its way. You may feel abandoned, but faith whispers, I am never alone. Feelings may betray you, but faith always points you back to truth. The measure of faith is not in the absence of fear, but in the refusal to let fear dictate your step. Faith requires vision beyond sight. Sight sees obstacles. Faith sees opportunities. Sight sees scarcity. Faith sees supply. Sight sees defeat. Faith sees victory already written. To walk by faith is to lift your gaze above what is visible and fix it on what is eternal. The physical may shout impossibility, but the spiritual whispers assurance. Every breakthrough in history was born when someone chose to believe beyond sight. The difference between those who crumble and those who rise is not circumstance but faith. Faith also reshapes speech. Words have power. They create atmosphere. build expectation, and influence outcomes. A faith-filled heart cannot speak defeat because it knows that words plant seeds in the soil of life. Complaining magnifies problems, but declaring truth magnifies solutions. Speaking faith is not denial, it is alignment. When you declare abundance in the face of lack, healing in the face of sickness, or breakthrough in the face of delay, you are aligning your words with the higher reality of divine promise. Faith speaks not according to what is seen, but according to what is believed. Patience is the companion of faith. Many lose their blessing, not because it was denied, but because they gave up too soon. Faith without patience becomes restless, demanding instant results. But true faith trusts timing as much as outcome. A seed takes time to grow. No matter how much you water it, it cannot bear fruit before its appointed season. In the same way, faith understands that waiting is not wasting. Every delay is preparation. Every pause is formation, and every season has purpose. Impatience reveals doubt, but patience reveals trust. Faith also produces action. Believing without acting is like holding a key, but refusing to open the door. Action proves faith. When you apply for opportunities even when others doubt you, when you give generously even when resources feel tight, when you step into ventures even when the outcome is uncertain, you are demonstrating living faith. Faith that never moves is only theory, but faith that acts changes lives. Every step in obedience is a declaration. I believe provision will meet me there. One of the greatest battles of faith is against doubt. Doubt whispers constantly. What if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if you lose everything? Doubt magnifies the risk, but faith magnifies the promise. Doubt looks backward. Faith looks forward. Doubt paralyzes. Faith mobilizes. Doubt is loud in moments of silence, but faith silences doubt with remembrance. Remembrance of past victories, past provisions, past faithfulness. When doubt rises, faith recalls. If he did it before, he will do it again. Faith also thrives in gratitude. Gratitude is the soil in which faith grows. A thankful heart sees blessings where others see burdens. Gratitude shifts focus from what is missing to what is present, from what is delayed to what has already been given. The grateful person naturally strengthens faith because they remember how every good thing has come from divine supply. Gratitude opens the door for more, for it demonstrates trust that provision is not random but consistent. Faith and gratitude are inseparable companions. Another dimension of faith is boldness. Faith dares to step into arenas others avoid. It dares to dream bigger, risk higher, and walk farther. Boldness is not arrogance. It is confidence rooted in trust. It is saying, I may not know how, but I know who. Faith-driven boldness inspires others because courage is contagious. When one person rises in faith, it sparks courage in those around them. The world is changed not by the hesitant, but by the bold who dared to act in faith. Faith also brings stability in storms. Life will always carry challenges, financial strain, relational tension, health struggles, unexpected losses. But faith turns storms into classrooms. Instead of drowning in fear, the faithful heart asks, what am I meant to learn here? How will this grow me? Faith does not eliminate storms, but it ensures survival and growth through them. A storm may shake circumstances, but faith ensures it never shakes identity. Stability in crisis is the mark of deep community strengthens faith. Alone doubt can grow louder. Together faith multiplies. Surrounding yourself with others who believe, who speak encouragement, who live with hope, creates an atmosphere where faith thrives. Isolation often breeds fear, but connection sustains courage. True faith communities remind one another of truth. When one's own strength feels low, they lift, they speak life, they model persistence. Faith was never designed to be walked alone. It grows strongest in shared commitment. Faith is also tested by generosity. It is easy to cling tightly to resources, fearing lack. But faith proves itself when you can release, trusting that what you give multiplies back. Generosity is an act of faith, declaring that supply does not end with what you hold, but flows endlessly from its true source. The generous live in cycles of abundance because faith keeps their hands open. Fear closes hands, but faith opens them wider. Faith transforms identity. You cease to see yourself as weak, limited, or disadvantaged. Faith redefines you as chosen, capable, and equipped. It reminds you that you are not defined by circumstance, but by promise. With faith, you carry yourself differently, shoulders lifted, eyes steady, heart calm. Faith anchors you in a reality that transcends the visible, giving you a confidence that cannot be shaken by temporary setback. The journey of faith is lifelong. It is not a single leap, but daily steps. Some days are strong, others waver, but the power of faith is not in perfection. It is in persistence. Every time you choose to trust again, to rise again, to declare again, your faith grows deeper. Over time, it becomes unshakable, a steady light that guides your life and inspires others. True success is not in never doubting, but in always returning to faith. When destiny is secured by God, there is no power strong enough to undo it, no opposition loud enough to silence it, and no failure great enough to erase it. To walk in the assurance of a secured destiny is to live free from the anxieties that bind most people. It means knowing that life is not a random sequence of events, but a carefully orchestrated design drawn by the hand of the Creator. A secured destiny does not mean the absence of trials, but it does mean the presence of victory woven into every trial. It means every detour leads back to the right path, every setback becomes a setup, and every delay hides within it a greater unfolding. Many live as though their future is fragile, as though one mistake can destroy everything, or as though the decisions of others can dictate their success. But when your destiny is secured in divine purpose, the weight shifts from your shoulders to God's. It is not up to you to make everything work perfectly. It is up to you to walk in alignment and obedience. The master designer holds the blueprint. He sees the end from the beginning and has already written the conclusion of your story. This removes the crippling fear of missing out or being left behind, because nothing and no one can block what is already secured. Living with a secured destiny transforms the way you face challenges. Where others see obstacles, you see opportunity for growth. Where others collapse under pressure, you rise with resilience because you know the ending is victory. You can endure the middle without despair. Imagine reading a book when you already know the hero triumphs. Every challenge they face becomes exciting instead of terrifying because you are confident of the outcome. Life with God is the same. The assurance of a secured destiny makes every battle bearable and every storm temporary. There is also a deep peace that flows from this security. The restless heart constantly fears the future, fears loss, fears failure, fears insignificance. But the heart anchored in divine destiny rests in the knowledge that its path is guided. This peace is not ignorance of reality. It is superiority over it. Peace says, I do not need to control everything, because the one who does is already in control. It releases the obsession with predicting outcomes or calculating every possibility. Instead, it embraces trust, allowing each step to unfold with confidence. Destiny secured by God also means provision is secured. You cannot walk a divine path without divine resources. Just as a king provides for his ambassadors, God provides for those walking in his calling. Every need is accounted for, every resource is prepared, and every connection is already arranged. When the time comes, provision will be waiting. This truth silences the worry of lack. It shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance, from fear to expectation. You stop asking, will I have enough? And begin declaring everything I need is already aligned with my purpose. A secured destiny also reframes the meaning of failure. To most people, failure is final. But in divine perspective, failure is feedback, correction, and redirection. It is never the end. It is simply part of the process. Even mistakes are woven into the greater plan, teaching lessons that prepare you for higher levels. You can walk boldly into risks because failure loses its sting. Instead of being paralyzed by the fear of falling, you move freely, knowing that even a fall places you closer to your destiny. If you remain aligned, confidence becomes natural. When destiny is secured, not arrogance, but holy confidence, the kind that stands firm in identity and calling. You no longer seek validation from people, because you know your path was chosen before the foundations of the world. You no longer compare yourself to others, because your destiny is unique and cannot be duplicated. You no longer fear competition, because what is yours cannot be taken, and what belongs to another cannot be forced into your life. This confidence frees you from envy and insecurity, replacing them with joy and assurance. Destiny security also breeds endurance. Without it, people often quit too soon, giving up at the edge of breakthrough. But when you know your ending is already secure, quitting becomes unnecessary. Why stop running when the finish line is guaranteed? Endurance flows naturally because your vision stretches beyond the present struggle to the inevitable victory. Every season of waiting, every stretch of hardship, and every painful process is endured with hope because you understand it is not the end. It is part of the journey. Another powerful truth about a secured destiny is protection. There are securing your destiny with divine alignment, unseen dangers you never encounter, not because you are lucky, but because your path is guarded. Plans formed against you dissolve. People who would harm you are removed from your circle. Situations meant to destroy you transform into platforms to elevate you. You are not unprotected in this world. You are shielded by the hand of the one who has secured your life. This is why you survive what others cannot. Why you rise from what should have broken you, and why you continue forward when logic says you should have stopped. Secured destiny also makes you a light to others. People are drawn to stability in an unstable world. When they see you walk with peace while others panic, when they see you rise with confidence while others shrink in fear, they are inspired. Your life becomes a testimony that destiny is not fragile, but anchored. You become proof that surrender to divine guidance leads to success that cannot be shaken. Others may question your methods, but they cannot deny your result. There is also joy in walking with a secured destiny. Not the fleeting joy of circumstances, but the deep joy of knowing you are in the right place, at the right time on the right path. This joy does not depend on possessions or achievements, but on alignment. Even in seasons of pruning, you can rejoice because you know fruit will follow. Even in seasons of stretching, you smile because growth is certain. Joy flows not from what you see, but from what you know that your life is meaningful, guided, and unshakable. When destiny is secured, you live differently each day. You wake up not with dread but with anticipation. You approach tasks not with drudgery, but with purpose. You face challenges not with despair, but with determination. Every moment is infused with significance because nothing is wasted. Even ordinary days become extraordinary when you realize they are part of a greater plan. This awareness transforms your outlook on life. It shifts your energy, your decisions, and your relationship. The greatest gift of a secured destiny is freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from regret, freedom from striving for control. You are free to live fully, to love deeply, to give generously, to dream boldly. You are no longer chained by the question, "What if I fail?" Because you already know the answer. Failure cannot cancel destiny. You are no longer paralyzed by "What if I'm not enough?" Because destiny is not about your sufficiency, but His. Freedom unlocks creativity, courage, and compassion, allowing you to live the abundant life prepared for you. To know your destiny is secured is to rest in the truth that your story is not fragile, your future is not uncertain, and your purpose is not at risk. It is to walk through life with the steady assurance that everything is working together for your good and for the fulfillment of a higher plan. This security is not based on luck, talent, or chance. It is based on divine promise. And when that promise secures you, nothing can shake you, stop you, or separate you from the destiny already written in your favor. So now you stand at the threshold of destiny. Not a fragile path, not a path of chance, but a path secured by the very hand of God. Every step you take is ordered. Every challenge you face is already conquered, and every blessing you need is already prepared. You are not walking toward uncertainty. You are walking toward fulfillment. You are not chasing success. Success is chasing you. You are not building a life of fear. You are living a destiny that is unshakable, unstoppable, and undeniable. Say it aloud and let it sink deep into your spirit. My destiny is secured. My purpose is unshakable. My future is unstoppable. My life is aligned with divine promise, and nothing can take it away. Walk forward with courage. Walk forward with peace. Walk forward with confidence. For your destiny is not hanging by a thread. It is anchored in eternity. And when God secures your destiny, you can rise. You can thrive. You can overcome. and you can live abundantly because nothing, absolutely nothing, can stand against what has already been written in your favor.